in 2019, our chief engineer of the car was checking and following the social media comments. And already in 2019, he's like, why isn't there a manual transmission? So since then, there's been a lot of thought, a lot of discussion, and we listen to the customers, we listen to you, we listen to drivers, and we've come up with the GR Supra manual transmission. And to explain how that's done and what the engineering went into it, I'd like to present Herwig Dijmsens, who is the chief engineer and fantastic driver and developer of the manual transmission. So he'll explain everything to you.
Thanks, Wendy. What an introduction. Good morning, everybody, from my side as well. I'll be talking about technical development of Supra manual transmission, because it was not as easy as just taking out the automatic gearbox and replacing it with a manual transmission. So we faced quite some challenges in this process. I picked out some of them to share with you this morning. So let's start with the most visible parts. So if you follow me on the slide, if it pops up, so this is like the gear shift lever and the center console. So these are the parts that you will immediately see if you step in the Supra manual transmission. So when we started to fit the Z4 shift lever mechanism into the Supra, we faced the problem that there was simply no space between the shift lever itself and the HVAC control unit. So the Supra has a very driver-oriented cockpit, and if the driver would be driving enthusiastically, he would be constantly hitting with his knuckles the HVAC control unit when he was engaging the gears 1, 3 and 5. So of course this is not ideal for a sports car. That's why we had to redesign the shift lever mechanism itself, make the ratio shorter and shortening the shift lever itself. Also the center console is different from the automatic transmission. If you follow me on this slide, you can see the layout of the automatic transmission center console, and beside it the one of the manual transmission. As you see, we had to find a new positioning for the handbrake switch, for the drive mode switches, and also finally the HMI knob had to be moved more to the outside, just to create space for the shift lever mechanism. Then, with this work on the shift lever mechanism, we solved one problem, but we started to face another one. This was like high shift effort and sticky shift feeling. And so to counter this, we acted on the shift knob itself. As you can see on the left side here, so we initially started with a shift knob of 68 grams in weight, and finally we packed 200 grams in this shift knob. And I can see you thinking, why do you add weight to a sports car? So I can already assure you, this is the only place where we deliberately added weight. And what does it do? So that weight that sits on a high position, mass in motion is inertia. And it's this inertia that helps you to engage the gear smoother and softer. So next, I will talk about the gearbox. So there was simply no off-the-shelf gearbox available to cope with the Supra's engine power and torque. Also, there was no time to start to develop a new gearbox from scratch. No time, no money, also to develop from scratch. That's why we had to select modular parts and assemble them together to a gearbox. As a result, we can now proudly say that we have a Supra unique gearbox. I can also give you an example of weight saving that we did on the gearbox itself. So initially we intended to use this acoustic capsule, which is indicated here in brown. But finally, after testing, we decided to get rid of it, because for a sports car it doesn't make any sense. Then, same story for the clutch. We have a newly developed one single plate clutch. There was also no clutch available to cope with power and torque of the Supra's 3-liter engine. So that's when we had to design our own clutch, increasing the clutch diameter and reinforcing the diaphragm springs. Also here we can proudly say that we have a Supra unique clutch. On Supra we are also providing an IMT function, Intelligent Manual Transmission. So this device or this electronics, it will help you in the shift up and shift down process. In the shift up process, it will smoothen the shift up by aligning the engine torque at clutch release. And this is in specific valid for the low gear upshift, so from 1 to 2nd to 2nd to 3rd at wide open throttle. It will avoid this kind of a driveline and shocks to the driver. Which is most obvious to you is the downshift. So if the system recognizes that you intend to downshift, it will do this throttle blipping. So it will match the engine RPM to the RPM of your driven wheels, and so also to avoid shocks in the driveline and to smoothen the shift process. To come to this performance level, as you will be driving today, we had to do extensive parameter and even software changes. So we had to do parameter tuning and even software changes to come to the performance level that you will be driving today. But during our development drives, we felt that we were not really satisfied with the takeoff performance and the in-gear acceleration performance. And it's then that we decided to shorten the key ratio. And it's from 3.15 for the automatic transmission, and now it's changed to 3.46 for the manual transmission version. And it's this change that gave us the sports car acceleration performance. And we didn't forget the suspension either, so we retuned the complete suspension initially for the manual transmission, but also we were so pleased with the results that we cascaded down to all Supras in the lineup as from middle of this year. So as from June this year or July this year, all Supras, including the manual transmission, all versions will have an upgraded suspension. So what did we do on suspension side? First we started to look at the stabilizers front and rear, and we reinforced the vulcanization of the rubber to the bar. So it's now a much more solid bonding. And this is beneficial for the handling performance and for steering response. We also retuned the shock absorbers on both axles. And finally, we had a close look at electric power steering parameters, and we also refined those settings. So please remember that it will be cascaded to all Supras in the line. Also, the traction control, we had to have a look at around this kind of variations. And a good example is a takeoff on uphill driving on split new conditions. So where you have your left wheels on high grip asphalt, your right wheels on polished ice. And with the initial setting, if abrupt driver would release the clutch and be abrupt on the throttle as well, this would have led to a wheel slip overshoot and finally the vehicle just rolling back from the mountain. And of course this is something that you don't want your customer to face in real life traffic. So just an example of what we did. We even implemented a new device which is called the Hairpin Plus function. So with this function, Supra will recognize when she's driving uphill on winding road conditions, allowing more wheel slip if these conditions are met. And also this helps us to give the sports and the agility by traction even in uphill driving conditions. And it's by implementing these kind of devices or electronics that we didn't need to make any compromise between the agility and driving performance on flat roads and on uphill driving. Similar as with the automatic transmission, we balanced the traction control and VSC system for optimal balance between stability and agility. My final slide. For the ultra purists, we are also introducing a lightweight version. And this lightweight version shaves off 38.3 kilograms from the initial automatic transmission's vehicle weight. I will now hand over to Wendy again. Yeah.
Thank you, thanks Zoe. I hope that highlighted for you the work that's gone in by Toyota into the manual transmission for Supra, which of course you won't find elsewhere, only on this car. Very importantly, in branding and communication, we have decided, a strategy is that every single manual transmission will have this Supra red badge. It's so that when you're out there on the road, beating everybody on the motorway, whatever you're doing, If it's a red badge, everybody will know that you've got one of the Supra manual transmissions. So this is just a highlight for this car. Also from July, we're going to have 3 new colours. So we have here the matte white, which we're calling matte moonstone white. We have Moraneki grey, which is, I'm not sure you've seen it yet outside, but it's kind of, it's very sparkling. It's really, really beautiful colour out there in the light. And we have the Dawn Blue, which is a continuation of the blue colours for these models. Just for your information, this particular car we have here is what we call our hero model. It's a special edition, which means it's got the matte white outside and tan leather interior inside. You cannot have that combination except on that car. So you cannot have matte white with any other colour except tan interior. You can have the tan interior on the others, but this is a special edition. And here's the tan, and that's which you can have a look inside at the rear one as well. So this is the tan interior. It's very nice. So this is a summary of the updates and changes that we've made to the manual transmission. So you've got the new manual transmission, of course, the newly developed clutch, the optimised final drive, optimised suspension, which as Herwig said will actually be rolled out across 2 litre, 3 litre automatic and 3 litre manuals. That'll be on everywhere. New exterior colours across the line, except for the matte white very special edition. The new IMT software and the unique gear lever, and you'll see when you drive, it really does make it, I'm not a fantastic driver, but even I managed to, it's great. And the new HMI position, so nobody's banging their knuckles against anything. Optimised traction, and this hill drive I think would be great, especially if anybody's going out in the Alps or somewhere like this. This is going to be fantastic. And the new interior trim, which is the tan leather. Very quickly, just now, for the GR family, we're calling it the power of 3, because we got the GR Supra, the GR Yaris, the GR86. Fantastic little family of very sporty cars. And it's continuing the power of 3. Each one has its manual transmission. And I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc., we're saying, we've got more pedals than Porsche, because we've got 9. Quite a claim, right? And the different gear, there's not a family resemblance as such, but each one has pedals and gears. This is our family.